Iroi is here and gosh dang, she looks adorable. Iroi is one of the rarest characters in the game as well that's able to provide healing, enemy gathering, increased attack, defense ignore, and still she does more. If you're here to learn more about Iroi, you're in the right place. She's in my opinion one of the best value character that you should pull, and you can also even technically use her as a sub damage dealer, or even crazier, a main damage dealer if you have like a lot of her awakenings, but those are a lot more niche. You'll be expecting her to be a really good general support. In any case though, use the timestamps for convenience to navigate to where you need to be, and let's just get started. Just real quick before we start, if you're looking for the best deals for top-ups in games like Neverness to Everness, I'd like to share with you the website I usually use, which is Loot Bar. Loot Bar is very direct. They offer the best prices for the same top-ups you'd find in-game. You can see how much you save right beside the price tag here. You can actually save quite a good amount, up to 25% if you register now with my link and use those new user coupons too. What's best for me is how easy it is to set up. Simply click on my link in the description, register an account if you don't have one yet, select any bundles you would like, complete the payment, choose self top up, log into your account. Now this is secured since it is set up as a one-time cloud device, so you don't gotta worry about that. You'll then see your account in-game on the browser, go to the store and click on the bundle you purchase. You'll be able to redeem it right away and voila, you'll have your resources. Then simply log out, your data will be automatically cleared. If you would prefer not to log in, there's even a direct top-up feature where if you bind your email to your game account, you can enjoy direct top-up without logging in even. All the more convenient. I've been using Lootbar for almost 2 years now and I have had no issues, and they also have thousands of great reviews on Trustpilot. Lootbar's been around the block. They're also used by multiple other big name creators too, so no complaints from me. Just as a side note, Lootbar also has official CD keys on sale for some really big Steam games like Art Raiders. You get up to 80% off for these keys, so yeah, check it out. If you're interested, click my link in the description and give Lootbar a shot. It does help me out a ton as well, so I'd appreciate that. We'll start with a summary. Iroi is an anima support slash healer, and her main role will be to provide buffs like increased attack and defense ignore via healing her allies. She has the ability to gather enemies with her skill, which is actually quite an underrated ability for a support, and her gather is pretty strong too. She has a passive that enhances the Blossom Esper cycle, which means she's great in Blossom related teams. However, because of how generally strong her buffs and abilities are, you can see her as more just a universal supportive character along the lines of Sakiri and Haniel. One of her best teams will involve the Blossom Nanally team. That team will feature Iroi, DMC, Zhouyan, and Nanally. She can also be used with Shinku in a charge team that features Iroi, Shinku, DMC, and Hathor. More on her teams later though. Now then, let's dive right into her kit. To start is actually with her second passive. It is very raw and direct. She grants the whole team defense ignore when healing. That's it. That's all the passive does, and it's just so good. Now with her skill, she can gather enemies with this. It also provides an attack buff based on Iroi's base attack for your whole team, and on top of that, she'll heal your team. And by healing your team, she'll provide the team-wide defense ignore as well, thanks to her passive. If this skill lands, you also gain some imagination, which is the energy bar right above Iroi's HP bar. More on this energy bar later. Now, if you hold this skill though, you'll turn all your other allies into sheeps. This is called the regression state, and they'll help Iroi attack. However, you will never want this to really be used unless you're playing main DPS Iroi at High Awakening. The skill has a passive that applies regression to allies if they actually die mid-battle as well, which is pretty handy. Now for her ultimate, it activates an area that heals all allies continuously, and because you heal, you provide defense ignore via her passive again. With the Hedgehog set equipped, that's how you also get team-wide attack buff with the ultimate as well. This ultimate can trigger different effects based on the amount of imaginations you've racked up with Iroi. If your imagination reaches the threshold, which you can see the symbol appear on her imagination bar if you do, Iroi's ultimate will also deal damage to enemies within range. However, I will say her damage output is not that high, especially at no awakenings, and by design, I do not think she is built as mainly a damage dealer in mind for sure. Now, during this ultimate, you can actually revive a character in the regression state during it as well, but a character will return to the regression state once the ult ends. After that will be her basic, which are normal attacks. You do gain imagination on hit as well. Holding her basic instead will consume imagination and see her constantly shoot at enemies. You can think of maximizing this for damage, but most of the time, all you have to do with Iroi is to use her skill and ultimate, and then you can just swap. You have all the buffs intact. Lastly will be her first passive, which enhances the Blossom effect by generating a Vita Butt copy that has lower damage output, but way higher firing rate. It doesn't count towards the Vita Butt limit, so it's just pure value for any Blossom teams or Blossom related teams. With all that said, Iroi's main gameplay loop is extremely simple if you choose to play her as a general support, which I believe is the main idea behind her design. You want to just use her skill and ult, then swap out. At that point, you have all the healing, all the buffs intact as well already. Her best team will be teams that involve Blossoms, like the Nanally Blossom team or the Shinku charge team as mentioned earlier, with more general teams too that you can use Iroi in. There are really no limits to her teams because of how generally useful she could be, but there are some teams better than the others and we'll cover all of them later. But before we talk about that, let's go through her builds. For her arcs, the best in slot is obviously her own, providing the base attack that Iroi scales her own attack buff off of, and it also provides more attack percent that Iroi scales her main healing amount off of. Alternatively is Youthful Fantasy, mainly for her base attack and attack percent stat, which is still useful, but the arcs effect are not going to help her that much. It is generally still the best alternative available, just for the base attack. Any other options will have lower base attack, which directly means you lose out on value with Iroi's attack buff, which isn't really recommended. Next will be your cartridge, modules, and stats. The cartridge set you're looking for is the Speedy Hedgehog set, which provides great attack buff for the whole team, really good for any general supports. The main stat you're looking for if you're running purely a support or healer Iroi would be attack percent / healing bonus. If you're running sub DPS Iroi, which is pretty niche, you'd then be running crit rate main stat. As for substats, the healer support Iroi will want attack percent or flat attack. A sub DPS Iroi would want crit rate, then damage percent or crit damage. As for a skill priority, obviously get all her passives first, then a healer support Iroi will prioritize the ult and skill, then support skill, then basic. If you're that set on wanting Iroi to be a sub DPS, which she technically can, her basic will be the priority instead of anything else. And with all that said, we can finally talk about her team. One of her most direct and strong team on paper is the classic Nanally Blossom team with Iroi. It'll involve the MC, Jiuyuan, Nanally, and Iroi. It does not need more introduction, they all help the Blossom Esper cycle, while all benefit from Iroi's attack buff and defense ignore. This team is also extremely simple to play with, so do follow along. Start with the MC's ult into the skill to max the cycle gauge. Then you go into Iroi, use her ultimate, then her skill. The skill's gather will prove quite useful for you. Then you can swap into Jiuyuan, use her ultimate, and then her skill for yet another gather. Then swap to Nanally, use her skill and ultimate. Everyone should be jumbled up here so she can't just go ham. After that, just spam her basics until her skill buff duration ends. And that is it. You just repeat. If you don't have enough energy for the ult yet, just skip the ults or attack and evade for a moment naturally. This team is as hard to play as vanilla Minecraft set in peaceful mode, and it is still strong. Nanally would be the Hypercarry aided by all the buffs, and all the Blossom Esper cycles are enhanced thoroughly from all your allies. It's the all-reliable Blossom team. Now then, the next team that makes the most sense for Iroi would be the Shinku charge team, featuring Shinku, the MC, Iroi, and Hathor. The way you want to play this is simple. Start with Shinku's skill and basics until you max her cycle gauge. Then swap to Hathor, that would be your Remora. Now use her ult and skill. Then go to the MC, standard routine, use the ult into the skill. Now you go to Iroi, that would be your Blossom trigger and the charge effect. Use her ultimate and skill and you'll have all your buffs intact. Then swap back to Shinku, use her ultimate, and now just spam basics, spam skills when available, spam ults when it glows up for the final hit as well, and you can rinse and repeat. This team is pretty much the same as the usual Shinku team, except you have better buffs for everyone in the team in terms of attack and defense ignore. Plus the healing is always nice for Shinku that might sometimes explode if you just don't evade well. It is a solid team. Now the final team I like to showcase is probably somehow still the best team of all time. I won't be showing you the combo steps though because it's just quite too brain deadly easy. The team will involve Iroi, Sakiri, and Haniel plus Lacrimosa. You know where this is going. All this team does is generally buff Lacrimosa, and usually you would have Adler instead of Iroi before, but now Iroi's buffs are just going to be more valuable for Lacrimosa anyway. All you need to do with this team is to start with Enhance E from Lacrimosa, then swap to all of your supports, ult, and skills. Then back to Lacrimosa to spam her basics, use a refreshed skill when available, spam basics again or spam ult if available with Lacrimosa. Then you want to use her Enhance E, then just swap back again to all of your supports to repeat the process and reset the buffs. That is it. This team is purely raw numbers, and you're just buffing Lacrimosa to an extreme, but hey, it works because Lacrimosa is insanely strong like that. This team honestly would work with a lot of any other characters that has a lot of direct damage, and Lacrimosa is simply one of those characters, right? So in the future, you can expect for any solo hyper carries that's just strong with their own kit to be able to just be used with all of these supports. That just works out anyway. It's a really simple team, which I don't think NTE would rely on these sort of archetypes to be the direction of their future power curve, but hey, it's always going to be a type of team. Now then, we can talk about her awakenings and pull priority. I'll straight up say it, if you're pulling Iroi just for her as a general support, which most people are, you don't need her awakenings at all. You can consider her signature arc as it does provide more damage boosting value though, but it's not even required for her to be used functionally okay. The only awakening that helps your team do more damage as a whole is the 5th one, which is the only one I'd suggest thinking about, but even then, it is not that busted. The rest are not required for her to function. Some boost her healing, some boost her own damage, some help her revive better or gain more energy, all of which are not importantly required for being a general support. I'm sure they help, they just aren't exactly so important that you have to go for them. If you want to play her as a damage dealer though and max her damage output, well, you definitely definitely want every single awakening that has to do with damage output. But well, you do have to be a really big stan of Iroi for that, because she's not going to be as valuable as just full sending 6 awakenings for, say, Lacrimosa to do a bunch of damage, right? But in any case, I think she's a good worthy pull. And that'll be all for my Iroi guide. Iroi will most certainly always have a place in relevant teams, since she is a universal support, and so far, all of the universal supports are still used, still dominant, namely Sakuri and Haniel. This makes Iroi a very worthy pull that I think you don't have to worry about that much. You only need to pull 1 copy of her. She's worth it, and that'll be all. I think she's really much worth it, and that'll be all. Good luck with your Iroi pulls, and take care.